So let me introduce Dr. Carolyn Skrdla. She is a PhD in social neuroscience, a land developer, and a CEO. She's affectionately known as Dr. Cari, the visionary co-founder and CEO of Lady Boss Alliance, passionate about fostering love and liberation. She is dedicated to helping individuals lead inspiring lives. For over 15 years, Dr. Cari has been deeply involved with academic research teams, developing courses to support human evolution and personal growth. Her strategic acumen extends to crafting innovative sales strategies and consulting for major clients like MCI and Siemens. Academically, she's an accomplished neuroscientist with impressive credentials across multiple universities. Dr. Cari, alongside her husband Mike and partner Angie Bear, is also a successful real estate investor and land developer, committed to creating vibrant communities across the U.S. And I have to throw in there, she's doing one in Cache Valley. Her journey is a testament to her multifaceted career and unwavering commitment to excellence. So, we're going to give you a free copy of Cari's ebook. There's also a QR code in your workbook, and I'm going to let her take on this neuroscience of fulfillment.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And Christine, you know I love you. I always have to start with acknowledging that and the great space that you created here and just the space that you hold in my heart. Thank you for doing the work, being the work, and bringing this to us. And where is my share feature? I want to go ahead and really jump right in, because when I started looking at fulfillment, and I kind of touched on this yesterday when you gave me a moment there at the end. Hi, Karen. Gave me a moment at the end to share. I've had challenges recently with feeling fulfilled myself, and I had not noticed how my consciousness had just kind of dropped down into a frequency that just drew me into myself, right? And being a researcher, and Christine was talking about that earlier, everyone like having a real academic researcher with access to all of that, I just decided to dig into this for self application, and hit the wall on Tuesday and was just depressed. And one of the things, if you ever deal with depression, one of the things that we've discovered in the world of neuroscience is to not resist it. You know, it's a lot like Chinese handcuffs. If you try and resist it, try and cheer yourself up, and other people want to cheer you up because we're the nation of good vibes only. It only kind of locks in longer, right? And so I just kind of sat with it and went deep into it. And what I discovered was that I was my own test subject for what I'm about to share with you, and didn't really realize it. So let's look at what the neuroscience of fulfillment is. And my subtitle is Unlocking the Path to a Meaningful Life. That's what it really comes down to. Does your life have meaning? Are you fulfilled by what it is that you are contributing? So when you look at fulfillment, one of the things that I like to do is get reacquainted with words. Here in the United States, we've seen a lot of corruption of language, and without all of my conspiracy beliefs, I think that's intentional because words create worlds. And I've seen meanings, definitions shift over my life. And so I use Webster's 1828 edition, and fulfilled is defined as, and I'm just going to go to the bolded, accomplished, performed, completed. That was my favorite right there. And executed. So fulfillment is a state of deep satisfaction where your actions align with your values. That's really where it comes from. And when we're unfulfilled, and I worked for like 10 years in human resources at Walt Disney, And I can remember just hiring someone and they would be so excited. And then I would pass them in the hallway 6 months later. And I'm like, how you doing? And they would barely look at me. How's it going? You love the job? Where they had this vision before, oh, wow, you guys got tuition reimbursement. Great, I want to finish school. Now they're unhappy. And I'll share more about that in the conclusion because I made a great discovery about people when they're unable to contribute, when they're just plugged into something that doesn't align with their values. So, what is the challenge that we're facing? And, and this is just a quick overview. Why is it that so many people are living life unfulfilled? And the data that I pulled, it's 86% of American citizens are unfulfilled in one area or another. Either it's really great at home, but it's not in my career, or vice versa. And so a lot of it is coming out of this cultural emphasis that we have on achievement. And I myself didn't even realize how I listen to people. I listen to people always in the context of, what are you up to? What do you have going? What are you accomplishing, right? And I noticed that, and it's mostly my children, I notice I have some sort of opinion about my adult children because they're not engaging in life the way I did. I'm a baby boomer, and our generation was defined by expansion, growth, that sort of thing. And my daughter, who is my youngest, she sees that as a problem that should have been addressed, and the result of it is everything that's wrong in the world. She's like, everything that's wrong in the world came from baby boomers, right? And I look at her and I'm always like, I hope you're joking about that. But there definitely is something to consider with this emphasis that started to emerge in the 1980s. And then another challenge is we're a nation of consumers. And so consumerism and instant gratification is a big obstruction to fulfillment. And then social isolation. We're no more out today than we were during the pandemic. And I'm seeing more and more people that are turning to their pets for support, not in the same way of support animals. I want to be clear about that because I think that they do beautiful work and they're a wonderful contribution. But I see posts all of the time where people will reach out to me over Messenger to respond to something that I've posted. And they're like, yeah, that's why I'm just staying safe, here with my fur baby, that sort of thing. So social isolation is a big challenge, big obstacle to being fulfilled. Then work-life imbalance, meaning that you're getting it from one source in your life, but it's not spread across all of your life. And then there's the whole mental health stigma. People are still surprised when I just openly say things like, well, I struggle with depression. I'm an addict. And what are you doing about? Well, I see a therapist, or I'm under care or something like that. I can't believe you said that out loud. Of course I said it out loud, right? And I got some shortcuts to how I say that, but I'm like, when you discover where you're messed up a little bit, it's your job to get unmessed up. I'll say it kind of like that. And then there's the default mode of comparison. And we live in an age where people have great ideas and contributions they want to make to the world, and they can't even get to it because, well, I don't understand how to build funnels, and I'm not that good on social media. Well, how about you just talk to some people? But that's not how this person built. So there's a lot with comparisons that create the challenge. And then inequality and systemic barriers, they come up. It could be anything from gender biases to ethnicity, but they're definitely there. And then the lack of reflection time. Why is that lack of reflection time getting bigger and bigger? Because of all of this other stuff, right? That's keeping us away from being able to just sit with ourselves and identify it. So fulfillment requires intentionality. We have to be intentional about it, which means that we have to be conscious about it in our application. And being conscious, being present, the last time I looked, that's only 4% of the time. When there's something so startling in our lives that arises, the self-conscious has no alternative but to touch us, and kind of like waking up a computer and saying, you need to come online because I don't know how to deal with this, or I don't know how to respond to this. So the more intentional we are with aligning our actions with our values and fostering really strong connections, the more likely we are to cultivate good habits that promote well-being. So here's the neuroscience solution, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be just a review for you. And I really go into the details of it in the ebook, so I won't be very detailed here. But why neuroscience? Well, it's the very reason that I chose to be a neuroscientist. Understanding the brain's role in fulfillment helps us intentionally cultivate habits and mindsets that promote lasting happiness. When we're trying to go at it, the remedies from the outside in without understanding what we're triggering internally, then we may not hit it, right? It's like, oh, this worked for this person and they're selling it, let me try it, and still that's not it. And so understanding things like dopamine and the reward system and how that's pulling you away from fulfillment. Your brain can only make so many decisions a day. And I got so caught up in Candy Crush, and then later it was hexagram something. I don't know. All I know is that I loved every time the little disc came up and they piled over because I won. Or with solitaire. And I even found a justification for paying solitaire, Karen, because it was like, well, look, this is tied to Cash App and I just made $5.62. And my husband's like, okay, babe, here's $5. I'm hungry. Can we go get something to eat? Right. And I'm like, okay. And I'm not even present. And I'm still aware that I'm addicted to this game. I'm getting dopamine from it. I'm getting rewards from it. But why? Why am I giving myself to it? Because it's easier than writing this book right now, or creating my next course, or dealing with somebody that's upset with me. I am totally involved in escapism, but still getting the dopamine hits, right? Getting the reward. And then there is serotonin and well-being. Like the biggest missing in our culture today is meaningful interactions. We're so passive and barely there with people. And I tested on occasion, especially with, this new thing of interacting with people, and everything is perfect. So what can I get started for you? Well, a glass of water with no ice, glass of water, no ice, perfect. One day I was like, why is that so perfect? Why is everything so perfect? Right? It's perfect. And it's all okay, perfect. And so when I asked this one young lady, I said, you've said now that it's perfect 3 times. She looked at me and she said, I did? And I said, yeah. And I just want to know why a glass of water with no ice is so perfect. And she said, I didn't even realize I said it. Right? So most of the time, our interactions are not very meaningful, and people are just kind of running off of how they've been trained, how they've been developed, right? but engaging in deep conversations, really requiring someone to respond in the way that I did. I'm like, I just want to know why it's so perfect, and why are you saying that? All of a sudden she was interacting with me, we were laughing, and I had the best experience, right? Just because I extended myself into having a more meaningful interaction instead of sitting there ticked off and griping about Gen Z and how they overuse that word. And then acts of kindness, helping others. Look at the creative way that contributed to someone. Because what I said to her was, hey, thanks for a great day. Do you think you can bring the same awareness and alertness to the next person that sits at this table, or is it going to be perfect? And she started laughing, and she's like, no, she was like, thanks for making me realize that. And what I experienced in my exchange and her exchange was that we both had a chemical release. I could see it in her eyes, I could feel it in mine, and it was different. You had two human beings in fellowship with each other. Big difference. And then there's oxytocin and connection. Like, who can you connect with on a deeper level? Like, really asking yourself that question. And even in rediscovery, my kids often, you know, um, laugh about me and my husband and being together. They're like, oh my gosh, guys, when we first came together 11 years ago, everyone's like, oh, well, it's new. Oh, well, it's you're newlyweds. You're still in the honeymoon phase. And I'm looking and I'm going, no, that's not it. It is the deliberate release of oxytocin, just going deeper and deeper with him, like looking in his eyes and seeing what I can discover new, or inhaling him. But I do the same thing with my children. When they come over, I always like inhale my children. I take a deep breath in, right? I want to smell my babies. And it's interesting because one day my son, my oldest son, I got ready to let go and he just pulled me even closer. And I said, "You okay, son?" He was like, "Yeah, I just want to smell my mom." Right? And I'm like, "I get it." I said, "I used to go stand in my mother's closet." Right? And my mom is living with me now and she smells the same. And it's something comforting about that. But tell another human being to go around smelling people, right? It's like, it's weird. But have you ever thought about it with the next person that you encounter? Because I'm telling you, there's something about it that will bond you to that person and connect you with them on such a level that you begin to have insights into who they are or what they might be dealing with. My sister-in-law lives in Florida now, and she had surgery yesterday, and she's been dealing with cancer. And I was there visiting about a year and a half ago, and when I hugged her, she smelled different. And her chemicals, yeah, you get that, Carlos? Yeah, it something had shifted. And I remember before I left, I said, "Sis, I want you to get a doctor's appointment." And I'm really moved by that because she listened to me and found out like she had cancer, breast cancer, and then later now there's a tumor someplace else, right? And she asked me, she said, "You knew that just from how I smelled?" And I said, "More than that, I love you. So I notice everything about you." And we're afraid to bond to people. It's like, I don't know that person, or if we notice what they smell like or notice something interesting about them that could draw us closer to them, we shut it off, not realizing that we shut off our own opportunities to release healthy chemicals, to release love, right? Now, endorphins and joy. That it's the natural painkiller, it's the good feeling hormone, endorphins, and they're released from exercising, laughing, creative activities. Sometimes I'm just home alone and I just want to experience joy. And so I put on maybe the comedy channel on my phone, and I just listen to that. But one of the things that I learned from a relative, he's passed away, is always dance to the music of your time when you're feeling down, right? And so for me and for my husband, that's anything that was recorded in the 1970s. I am super mindful, though, of whether or not it has harmonics in it, and if it does, what the lyrics are. You know, I remember helping my husband that. If you're familiar with the song Magic Carpet Ride, I'm like, that song was recorded in 528 hertz. It's loaded with harmonics, and it inspired the entire generation to go off the rails. And he was like, babe, you're so deep. What are you talking about? And I said, Magic Carpet Ride? Do you really think they're talking about a carpet ride? I'm like, and I'm like, listen to the instruction in it. It's like, get high, have sex. And I was like, and that produced an entire generation coming out on the other side of that decade with STDs, AIDS. And he was like, I'm never going to listen to this song again. I'm like, I'm so sorry, right? And we also have a commitment not to listen to songs about cheating and things like that. I'm like, Mrs. Jones needs to go home, right? So you want to be mindful of the songs of your time because they've been written and designed to influence you and to put us into a collective consciousness. But there's definitely music out there, rhythms out there that that can move you, that you want to engage in healthy ways. And I'm not a big gym person, but I will in a heartbeat get up if you put on Van Halen's Jump, and I'm jumping. I'll dance, right? And I release endorphins and I start to laugh. And mostly what I'm laughing at is like, wow, when this song first came out, I could do a full of splits. Now all I hear is my thighs clapping together, and I just start laughing at that. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a mess. So enjoy yourself, even when you're alone. Now, the prefrontal cortex and purpose is so important. It will reveal where you are misaligned, right? So if you are in self-reflection and you can see that you're unhappy with your life and the direction that it's going, and you don't know which way to move, right? The prefrontal cortex is going to help you to see that, to begin to cultivate actions. And a great place to start is, what's important to me? Like, what really matters to me? And then a couple more here, the default mode, network, and reflection. And I say more about that in my contribution to the workbook. This part of the brain activates during introspection and helps us find meaning in our experiences. It's essential for self-awareness and personal growth. Like, you want to actually sit with yourself and reflect, asking yourself, and I have the questions in the workbook, asking yourself, well, why do I want to do this? And what does it mean? What's the value? And give your brain an opportunity to respond to that. And then last, neuroplasticity and change. Anytime your brain is engaged in experiences that are positive, you are going to establish new habits. And you are reinforcing it over and over and over again every time you engage in those good habits. One habit that my husband and I have incorporated is going to a music concert every month. Every month, it's like we're going to go, and a lot of it is hilarious. We went to see the Little River Band, and they came out and they were like, how many of you, this is your first time? And lots of hands went up. And my husband's like, they got old. And I'm like, babe, they were like 20 years old when we were in high school, like 25, 30. And they're like, it's good you got here. You might see us taking a few breaks. They're in their 80s. They've got grandchildren playing drums, right? And yet there's something about that experience of an entire generation being together in memory, right? And us having that as a habit of going around music, right? It brings happiness into our home. It has shifted the way we're wired. And my mother said this to me yesterday. She said, how do you look as young as you look? This is my mother. And she said, and you didn't look that way 10 years ago. And I'm 61 years old. And she said, you look like you're like 38 or 40. And I'm like, thanks, Mom. And I said, Mom, it comes from my value of music and creativity and actually engaging in it. And she's like, is that one of your brain things? And I'm like, yeah, Mom, it is. My mom's hilarious. So bringing it all together, right? You want to look at creating a 3-part plan for cultivating fulfillment in your life. Everything that I just shared with you, those are things that you know already. And something interesting happens when we know something. When we know something, we die. That's what happens. Like we know gratitude and meditation and journaling, exercise and connection, but are we doing them? Are we still telling ourselves, well, I'll do that tomorrow? Are we still allowing interruptions so that we don't have to cultivate these things? I right up until this moment, all I wanted to do was just be on here with you guys. And I had my son on the phone. He called, his girlfriend broke up with him on Valentine's Day. I mean, like, whoa, that's so heartbreaking. And I said, I'm here for you, but I have to talk to you later. Before I really aligned with my purpose, right? That would have been the very excuse that I needed, right? To be called off. It's a form of escapism. So with cultivating, bringing it together, you want to have one goal that you focus on. Just one. Just get one goal that you focus on in order to begin to incorporate what I'm about to show you next. You want a daily habit that you start to build. I definitely recommend that you have a morning ritual and a nighttime ritual. And I think Christine's work and the collective that she's brought together is a great place to start. I mean, when I met her, this was only a dream. And that's why I'm a part of it, because I watched her build it, manifest it, right? It was a goal. And she built it. Look at what's possible. And then look at one relationship that you want to strengthen. One relationship. And that could just be with the person at your local supermarket. I had a bad interaction with a woman named Cari at Safeway store. And later I went back and I said, I don't think you had a good experience with me. And it was really funny because my daughter was giving me a pass. She was like, Mom, it was her. She was rude. She was she was nasty. And I'm like, yeah, but I was reactive to that too. I didn't bring all that I could. And it was the most interesting thing. Her father had passed away the same week that my brother passed away. And there we are, two people not sharing that. Why? Because of where we are. So I strengthened that relationship with her. Now, when I go in the store, I deliberately get in her line, or I don't care how long just so that I can fellowship with her for whatever time that I could. It could be something like that. It doesn't have to be a big thing, right? And remember, like I said, these are things that you know already. I want you to incorporate them. So it really is time to shift. And here's the shift. Here's what I want you to keep in mind. I want you to ask yourself at any given moment in your day, am I being a consumer right now or a contributor? And there's something characteristic about being a consumer. You know, when you look at consumerism, especially here in the United States, the customer is always right, or at least it used to be. You have an opportunity to write reviews on Trustpilot and on their websites or report people to the Better Business Bureau. Because consumers focus on acquiring things, material things, entertainment or services. Even those of us that are entrepreneurs, business owners, it can start out as being a contributor and end up you're a consumer. You're a consumer of your own business. You're a consumer of customers. You're a consumer of competition. And you know that you've slipped over into that because you're seeking gratification, outside validation, right? And you wake up and you forsake your morning ritual, your nighttime ritual, and you're just moving about life, kind of scurrying about. And a lot of a lot of times, is escapism. Other times we're involved in consumerism because we need validation. And if you think about what I said earlier about getting out of balance, this is where it begins, because what we're in pursuit of is it's lost its association with the value of it. And once that happens, this can really lead to feeling empty, disappointed, dissatisfied. I used to think there was no reason for rich people or celebrities to break up. It was like, what are they breaking up for? If it's not about the money, then what are they arguing about? What is it? What's irreconcilable differences? Right? I couldn't figure it out. And I think that we kind of end up in that place when we're engaged in relationships and consumerism. You're not meeting my needs. And it's something that is so has infiltrated all throughout our culture here in the US. We don't even know how to turn it off. I've spent a lot of time outside of the country, and I've been in places where I'm not proud of this, but I was so embarrassed by the behavior of American citizens that I started speaking in an Egyptian accent. My mother was born there, and her first language is Arabic. And so I know exactly what that sounds like. And I'll start engaging in that way to distance myself. And like I said, I'm not really proud of that, of having done that, but I really felt embarrassed to watch people so infected with doing. And I talk about that in our book, Getting to Zero, right? Where I had to slow down. Slow down. It's okay to slow down and put yourself in the rhythm of God. So much so that consumerism falls off. Have you ever noticed when you're not rushing to actually buy a product in a store or something like that, right? You end up not even buying it. Like, I'm not even sure why I came in here. Oh, I might need this. Because when we slow down, we can think better. We can ask ourselves questions. We can see why we're engaged in something. And in your life, in your relationship, and in your business, that's a great thing to ask. Am I a contribution or am I a consumer? When you're a contributor, you're focusing on creating and sharing and giving back. You seek long-term fulfillment through purpose and connection. And then as a contributor, you often are driven by intrinsic motivation instead of the quick fixes. And this leads to personal growth and contributing even more, or even involving other people in becoming a contribution. And then it builds a sense of meaning and satisfaction by positively impacting others or the environment. And I can tell you that the chemical release that you get from that outweighs anything in terms of games, gambling, alcohol, anything that you might be substituting the real deal with, right? Is no match for when you contribute or you shape yourself as a contribution for humanity. And here are just some of the psychological benefits of contribution. You get a chance to discover your hidden strengths. There's something about accountability and putting yourself in a place of accountability, and a lot of us avoid that. But accountability breeds self-expression in a human being. When I became a mother for the first time, it was after I had buried one child, and I was terrified of having another one and having it die. And all of a sudden, I just remember holding my baby and knowing what to do when everything was just there automatically that was hidden from me before. A strength to let go of the grief so I could focus on this child, right? I just wanted his life to be great. And I didn't realize that a lot of my fears and concerns of getting pregnant before was just me being a consumer. Like, really get that. This isn't fair. I did everything right. I was healthy. I ate right. This isn't fair. Why did I have to bury him? It was all about me. And I almost brought a baby here so disconnected because I was in my story, and wanting a refund from God for my heartbreak. And then boosting confidence and self-worth. It's unmatched when you accomplish things knowing that you made a difference. And those of you that are business owners and this and that, it's so easy to get caught up. That's what I love about Christine's marketing. It speaks to me. I'm arguing with my marketing team all the time. I'm like, don't put any more buzzwords in there. If I see like-minded people one more time, you're fired. I can't take it anymore. Buzzwords, right? And they come along and they say, yeah, but we have to put it in here because of the SEO optimization and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just don't care. I want who is supposed to be at my event or who's supposed to read this book to read it. Either they will get that this is a contribution or they won't. And so, it's important that I do that, because if I don't feel like I'm making a difference and I'm just making money, it just doesn't work for me and I'm going to end up depressed. And then nurturing a growth mindset. If you want to nurture that, you will definitely put yourself in a position of contribution where you're accountable to something, because you're going to know yourself to be bigger than you were before you jumped in. And then emotional rewards of contribution. Creating a sense of purpose is so important. And with everything so confusing in our society today and not really knowing, I was looking at the California wildfires and I was just trying to make sure I found a legitimate place to make a contribution. I wanted to be involved. What can I do for women? I'm a real estate investor. I'm a builder. Businesses burned down. What can I do? And the more I inquired, the more a solution came out of it. And what I saw was people that I would talk to about being involved in what I was creating. They were like, yeah, somebody called me and tried to get me to donate over the phone. People outside of the country are looking at what's happening in our country all the time and trying to seize some moment and take advantage of it. And so we get confused about what's legitimate. What can I really contribute to? Well, dig in, answer the question for yourself and find something you want to be a part of. And then it's going to reduce stress and anxiety. Why? Because your mind is off of yourself. That's my favorite part in the story of Job in the Bible's Old Testament. It was like, it wasn't until he took the attention off of himself onto his friends that things turned around for him. And then fostering emotional resilience, giving back reminds you of shared humanity, right? You get a chance to actually see yourself in the place of another human being, like they're reflecting back to you. And that's going to produce gratitude. Now, the social power of contribution is building meaningful connections, earning respect and recognition. I think I have a reputation out there known for caring and for showing up for people. That's why Christine can just shoot me a text, and I'm like, yeah, because I'll always show up for her. And it's hard for me to not even cry about that. I'll always show up for her. Why? Because she cares about you. I saw her build this because she cared. I saw her take herself on. And so I'm always going to show up. And that's my reputation. I'm known for it. Applying collective impact, contributing alongside others fosters a sense of collective achievement. And when we start to cultivate that, now we're not talking about just a shift for ourselves, but a harvest for the world. And that's what I stand for. A world where people are loved and liberated. And it's harvest time. And I'm ready to engage. So this is how you start contributing. You know, you want to start out with something small. And one, identify your skills and passions. Sit down and actually write down like what you're passionate about. And I don't care if you've been talked out of it. My husband got talked out of being a musician, and his father could play every instrument. And he's playing at home, and his father's like, I hear that all day. Shut it down. And when I met him, I'm like, here, take this intelligence test. Imagine what it's like going out on a first date with me. Like, take this assessment. And that I gave assessments to his kids, his ex-wife, like everybody, take this test. And he came back with really high musical intelligence, but couldn't play a single instrument. And yet he's so passionate about music. And so he formed Life Back and went and learned to play guitar and formed a garage band. And now they raise money, and that money is donated to the efforts of abolishing human trafficking. But I would say start small. And here's how I encourage people to do it. Every day, I go through the drive-through somewhere and I pay for somebody's drink or meal behind me, especially when I'm feeling crappy. I get up, I go through the drive-through, and I go, yeah, I'm just here to pay for the person's meal behind me. Oh, well, come on up. And I just drive around till I find a place. I don't drink coffee, but I can tell you I bought it. And I can tell you I'm not going back to Starbucks because they should rename that $10. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm here to pay for the, and I said, no, I just said the one car behind me. Yeah, that is the one car. Oh, okay. It was a big order, right? I guess they were getting for everybody at work. And I'm having fun with this. But I felt so good as I'm leaving. And I always say the same thing. I've paid for groceries for people. I always say the same thing. Tell them I said, have a great day and that I love them. Every day, be a contribution. You can start that small. And when I come back home, I know myself to be so much bigger. And now my contractor that's calling me and like the cabinets didn't arrive and whatever they're saying, I'm like, it's okay. And then join a cause that you care about. Be a part of it in any way that you can, but not being a part of it or telling yourself, I will one day when I have more time, I have more money. It's not going to happen. Jump into something now. Set a regular schedule to contribute. Mine is every morning. I'm going to be a contribution. And I can see those days where I'm not doing it or where I'm on the phone and I'm going through the drive-through and I'm not focused on it. And I'm like, yeah, I want to pay for the car back. No, you want to have it scheduled and bring your full self to it. And then collaborate with others. One time I set it off for 3 days. People were just going through drive-throughs, paying for other people's things. And the love and the collaboration that it built between, it was the founders of my organization. And we came on so ready for the world because of the little difference that we made in causing somebody to smile. So do that, collaborate with others. But also those of us that come here and we receive from like Carlos and, Coley, she was on earlier, huge fan. Amy Walker yesterday, that's one of my dearest friends, right? I remember calling Leslie Householder and saying, I want to come and work for you. And she said to me, that sounds great. And I can't pay you. And I'm like, I didn't ask you for money. I said, what if you let me come and work for you like it was my full-time job? And I went, and that's how I met Christine. What a contribution. I got paid big dividends. And I worked with her for 3 years, helped her grow her company, scale her business, and helped her and her husband. We became good friends. And it resulted in things that I don't know. I don't even have time to get into. But when you collaborate with people and you know that money isn't necessary because it's going to come back to you through God's economy, your contribution is going to contribute to your well-being, your mental state, your happiness, your joy. And if it's not doing that, don't do it. Then you can be in a frequency from there of manifestation like you've never known before. And we saw that divine consciousness achieved by Buddha, Krishna, Jesus. What were they doing? They were contributing. Go and help some. If your business isn't growing, go put some seed in the ground and grow somebody else's and watch what it does for you. And then last, reflect on your impact. It's okay to celebrate your impact and the difference that you make in the world. I drove 2 hours a few weeks back. My friend Tamala had a brain aneurysm, and I went to see her in the hospital. And she couldn't really be with me because of the headache that she was having, and she went to lay down. And I'm in the community center with an old woman there, and it was her anniversary, and her husband had died during the pandemic. And she just started to cry, and everybody was making Valentines. I got into it too, like all of the little cutty things and glue. And I went there to see my friend, only to realize I'm here to impact humanity. And this woman is hurting right now. And I looked at her and I said, so what was his name? And she said, John. I said, tell me about John. And she started telling me all about John and when they met. And the next thing I know, she's just lit up. And when I got ready to leave so that I could get back to my mom, she said, can I hug you? And I was like, I'd be so disappointed if you didn't. And when I left there, just the drive home, reflecting on that, right? And the fact that I could bring love as a contribution and listening and understanding as a contribution, everything that I left home with that I was upset about, that wasn't working and everything just seemed to dissipate. And I could get into creativity, and I knew myself to be powerful. I knew myself to be amazing. I knew myself to be incredible, because look at the shift that I could cause in the heart of another. And that's what I want to complete with and encourage you. I know you know about dopamine. I know if you're here, you understand all of these things, but I want you to be consciously engaged in your life and you as a contribution to the world. My calling is people experience love, forgiveness, and acceptance unconditionally and live inspiring lives. And I built my business, my practice, and everything on that people are loved and liberated. That is what I value more than anything in the world. And so that means that anytime I'm misaligned and I'm seeking into the levels of depression that I hit on Tuesday, it's because I've slipped over into consumerism. The consumerism of being a daughter that's taking care of her mother. And what if I do something wrong? The consumerism of being a wife. How come I got to do the dishes and make the bed? He really got out today and left his socks there. And it's like all of this blah, blah, blah. And it'll just take us down. So that's it. That's all I got. Thank you for your time. I hope you'll take this on.
Thank you so much. Did you guys see her beautiful, beautiful ebook? It's still, the link is still right there, I think. And you can kind of see it matches up with what's in the workbook as well. And it's just, I'm like, Cari, did you do this just for us? You really did. You're amazing. And it's just gorgeous. So we weren't able to throw all that into the workbook, but everybody got it that way. That's like the best. And it opens up easy. And so beautiful. And oh my gosh, I love your generosity. I have a whole nother level of appreciation for you. Just seeing you as what? Magnanimous. Is that a word? I like that one. There's a word for you. Okay, thank you so much. And I want to just finish this last few minutes we have with this recap of like, what did you learn today? I'm going to throw in the back of the workbook, it has several questions, but I want to put them in there for everybody to just consider. What did you learn? And I would love to hear your responses. What are the top things you learned and choose to remember about psychological fulfillment from today? Please put it in there. Is there a program or site you'd like to explore? I still have to say Magic Carpet Ride is still a good song. I'm sorry, but something when you get to high vibrations, I've learned, and this was a question that came up on day one. If you're at a high enough vibration and you use powerful enough intentions, can you get away with a few things? And so I have figured out how to get away with some music. And so you just change the shape of the intention around it, right? And the frequency around it anyway, and dance. You got to dance, right? So yes, but I love that I have a friend in music and the remembrance of that. But yeah, is there a program or site you are interested, if you'd like to explore? And then sadly, that's, what comes to mind is the song. Anyway, and I'd like to hear from you. Like, is there, reminders that all of us can be looking at? Is there a book or ebook you're interested in reading? And I love that I walked you through my ebook instead of waiting for you to read it. So the challenge sometimes is making time for that, right? And I have to share with you that I love the synchronicity of this. And so Tamara Lang was chatting with me privately, and I'm actually saving all of her chats that she shared. She is such a researcher and so resourceful. And I love that she's going to share on Saturday about good stuff, about what she learned in the beginning of her journey. But she has been such an advanced student of so many things that she shared about the PEAR Institute. Anybody know about PEAR? Cari, do you know about PEAR? It stands for like, oh shoot, I should find out what it stands for. But it's an institute that was developed in the 70s with intention research. So they actually did it out of Princeton. And so I think the founder of PEAR was a student or a employee of Princeton and created this little research facility, and they would take the power of intention and show actual scientific impact of our intention. And so two fun little coincidences. I opened up Jackie Woodside's podcast, which is the Conscious Living podcast, and I scrolled through it and I landed on podcast number 78. And it was an interview she did with Jim, I think his name is Jim Dunn, who's the son of the developer of Pear. And so his mother basically raised him with consciousness, intention research. I mean, can you imagine all this stuff that's really cool and that we're starting to become aware of now? He just grew up with it. And so he carried it on. So he created a nonprofit that now continues that research, and I was so fascinated by it. And then I get this message from Tamara a minute ago, and maybe I can find it. And it's literally referring to this Pear Institute. I'm like, how, like, what is the synchronicity of all that? It's so cool. So it's just fun how things just kind of all circle around. And when we are starting to open ourselves up to that, and I still have to mention, like, I don't have it exactly right, but Leslie Householder was the one that taught me this concept that if your consciousness is high enough, you will become aware of opportunities that you would not be aware of with a lower consciousness, a lower frequency, right? And so it's the same stuff. I mean, it's the same person in the elevator. It's the same walk down the street, but the awareness is what changes. And the awareness is that person is worth lining up with. That person is worth a conversation and exploring something there. And so anyway, it's just kind of cool how it all starts to happen together. The experiments of Pear Lab, the concept, here I got it. I'm going to put it in there. So whatever that's about, it's inspiring me. It inspired me to connect Karen and Tamara. So I want to know, do you guys know each other yet? Or is this your first? This is new. Okay. So Karen has just been hired as basically to be over my research and to help with this project of creating what has the potential to eventually become a journal of integrative mental health. And Tamara, even though she doesn't have like a clinical degree, is one of the strongest people I know in they can just find stuff like that's so cool. And so they're connected now officially, and we're going to all work together. And so I love whatever happened today. It was powerful. And it was the generosity of people like Cari, who is so funny. Like, I checked in with her a few days ago. I'm like, we're not seeing any activity on your landing page. She's like, oh, girl, I will come through. And boom, like overnight, she had like 50 people registered. And so it's just, like trusting the process. And I'm so grateful for all of you who are here in attendance. So good. So tomorrow morning, we're going to hear from Bridget Cook-Birch, and that you do not want to miss that one. She's going to be amazing. We're going to talk about ego structure. We're going to talk about conscious relationships. So it's our social fulfillment day. And we're going to, I think, let's see, what do we end with? And that's when we have Samantha Akers on. And I told you about, like, this woman is such a gift to anyone who's in her space and very advanced. And so, yeah, so she's going to talk about the power of mindfulness and grace. And so it's going to be an amazing day. And thank you for supporting today. And we'll see you again tomorrow.